Hey, Mark from Sound Matters here with another vinyl video, and today we're actually going to have sort of a little bit of a rant really. I've just finished writing a really interesting article over at the website about how not everything is on Spotify and how owning the music you love really matters. So that's the core element of this topic about how owning music, particularly on vinyl, is so important in my mind. So I really wanted to transmit this topic into a YouTube video. I mean, this is a fairly new YouTube channel, and those who have followed Sound Matters for a little while will know that primarily over the last few years, I've been producing mostly sort of written articles over the website, really. And this is a bigger step into kind of YouTube content and video stuff that we've been doing over the last few months. So for those who are new to Sound Matters and just discovering us through YouTube, I thought this would be a good way of kind of emphasising some of the values of Sound Matters and why I run the publication, why I do what I do, so without kind of waffling too much, that's the reason I wanted to get into this, and it really is at the core of why I run Sound Matters. I absolutely love vinyl records. They're my favourite way to listen to music, and this is at the core of why it's so important to me to kind of own music on vinyl when you could just sign up for a streaming service and have access to everything that you want. Except, of course, not everything is on these streaming platforms. The stuff that's on there is just the records, the albums that have been uploaded to those services. And I was recently reminded of this shortfall when I was having a chat with my landlord in my local pub. So I live in a fairly tight-knit community, very British in that way. A lot of it centres around the pubs and everything. And we were having a conversation about music, and he was talking about how he'd got rid of all his vinyl, and he got rid of his turntable a few years back, went full on into streaming and hadn't looked back, and really kind of loved it. The fact that he could get hold of anything and he can play the stuff in the pub and everything, and happy days, we can all have a good time. But he just searched for a record from his youth, which was called Eddie and the Falcons by a band called Wizard. And the main album that people know by the band Wizard was there, but this second album by Wizard was not available on Spotify. So he'd been talking to another regular at the pub, and they'd had a conversation about it, and it being the nice kind of community it was, the other guy had gone away and actually found the record on eBay and bought the record for him and said, here you go, there you go. Trouble is, he didn't have his turntable anymore. So we're having a conversation about it, and I said, well, I'll tell you what, if you give me the record, I'll digitise it for you, I'll archive it for you, I'll make a CD, and you can have that. It's an interesting one because I do have access to a streaming platform. I use Tidal. So vinyl is my absolute preferred way to listen to music. I absolutely love the whole immersive experience of it. Everything from pulling the record out of the sleeve to putting it on the turntable, gently queuing up the stylus, the whole process, sitting back, reading the liner notes on the record. It's all very important to me, but there is a time and a place for streaming. Of course, it's great for music discovery. It's good, because we can't own everything unless we've got an unlimited budget to spend on records. But of course, there's also, I can't take my record collection with me on the train. I can't take it in my car. And if I'm doing something else, like, writing content for my website, for example, then I don't necessarily want to be constantly going up and down to the turntable and flipping it over and doing all that. It's something that's in the background whilst I'm writing. And so very often I'll use it as background music whilst I work, right? So there's a time and a place for it. So I do have access to a streaming platform. And I've come across this all the time where I search for a record and it's not there. So I was just going to show you a couple of examples now of records that I really love that I can't find on my Tidal streaming platform. Okay, so let's just look at a couple of examples. Go up to the search here and type in Buckingham Nicks. I'm looking for an album by Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham before they joined Fleetwood Mac. So this is when they were a duo. It's a really great album. I know a lot of people that follow Sound Matters know it, and it's a classic, and it's something that's never really been properly re-released on vinyl. I did come across it once in a record store, and it was a little expensive for me. I really wish I'd just bitten the bullet and bought it because I haven't come across it again at a reasonable price. So, but anyway, now the artist does come up, interestingly enough, right? But the album isn't on here. What is on here is a live album by them. So it's we've just joined Fleetwood Mac, which is a live performance over at Morgan Auditorium, the University of Alabama. So it's not the album that I'm looking for. So that is not available on Tidal, right? Let's try another example. So I'm looking for a soundtrack that has a whole load of John Frusciante tracks on it. It's called The Brown Bunny and has some really great acoustic guitar tracks on there that it's really kind of almost psychedelic type stuff. It's absolutely I think some of his best work, but it's never really been released on its own as an EP or anything like that. It's only around 5 tracks and it makes up the second side of that LP. Brown Bunny, and nothing's coming up here at all, so that's not available on Spotify. I happen to have a downloaded version of that as I don't own the vinyl because I can't get hold of the vinyl. It's out of press at the moment, so again I can't get hold of that on a streaming platform. So just another example. I'm sure you've all got your own examples, so let us know in the comments below when you've come across this situation where you can't find it on a streaming platform at all. But it's not just about being able to find things. I think there is a true importance to owning the music you love, and I think we've really lost something as a society as we've moved more towards a digital realm here, where music has essentially gone from something that you own to something that you merely rent via a streaming platform. And I think that has profound effects in terms of music's value in society and the kind of quality of music culture that we have. There's a really great quote by Martin Luther King that I think really sums up what I'm trying to say here, and it goes like this: "There is nothing more dangerous than to build a society with a large segment of people in that society who feel that they have no stake in it, who feel that they have nothing to lose. People who have a stake in their society protect that society, but when they don't have it, they unconsciously want to destroy it." And I really believe that's what we're doing to music. That might sound dramatic in terms of that quote, but essentially we're removing people's stake from the music itself. And I think that then totally values the whole product, right? So I think I've kind of come from personal experience with this to a certain degree, in that when I moved back from Canada, I lived in Canada for a little while, back to the UK to study at university. I left all of it was all CDs I had at the time. I've moved more to vinyl in terms of the way that I collect music in a physical way, but I left all my CDs behind and uploaded all of them to iTunes at the time, because this is before the days of mass music streaming. But still, all of my music went from something that I physically had with me to essentially an MP3 list on iTunes, right? And I began to notice that I was just less interested in listening to that music collection I had. I placed less value on it. It didn't mean as much to me. The whole experience wasn't as immersive, and it kind of drifted into something that happened in the background rather than something that I actually sat down and actively spent time doing. So quite simply, we value the things that we own, and there is psychology to back this up. They call this the endowment effect, which is essentially the belief that we ascribe more value to things as soon as we own them. If you want to delve more into the endowment effect and how that kind of works, then head over to the article in the link below where we've got the whole feature of the importance of music ownership, where there's a TED Talk embedded in there, a TED Talk video that really summarises this whole thing. But in essence, our physical attachment to things actually starts pretty early in life. The idea that we can own a thing like an extension of ourselves is one that children grasp by the age of as early as 2, and by 6 they then start to show the endowment effect in full. So there's a whole TED Talk on that if you want to delve into it, but I think I've made the point in terms of we do have a value to things when we own them as opposed to renting them, which really brings us back to that whole kind of music is now shifted from something that we own to something that we rent, and is therefore less valuable to people in society. There's some real consumer research studies to back all this stuff up as well. So from a fairly recent Journal of Consumer Research study, hundreds of Americans were asked what they were willing to pay for both physical and digital copies of popular movies such as Harry Potter's Sorcerer's Stone and Dark Knight. And what they found was that the participants placed a higher value on physical copies, and seemed to be because they had a stronger sense of ownership. So a lot of the people would agree more with comments like, "I will feel like I own it." But I'm not here to trash streaming services, you know. So in the interest of balance, there's obviously a time and a place for streaming platforms, and they have had many positives. Music discovery is fantastic now. Music has never been more accessible than it has been today. But we really have lost something, I think. So, you know, the answer is like, I'm not trying to tell you to never touch a streaming platform. Clearly, I do that. And, you know, I am listening to streaming platforms myself. But what I am saying is that I do think we've lost something, and I think there is much to be lost, and I think perhaps we can regain something by trying to seek out those kind of ownership opportunities and those opportunities to make music the forefront rather than the foreground rather than the background, right? So I think that is important, but I think we are starting to see that. That is why, you know, vinyl sales were up a whopping 30% in 2020 and have grown in the last 10 to 15 years, have grown exponentially year on year, and we keep seeing CD sales and obviously download sales on the decline. So we clearly seem to be seeing here an element of human nature almost playing out. So yes, we like convenience and we like to have these things and everything, and people, there's an element of, you know, cost involved in there, but we're also seeing people's natural human desire coming through to own the music that they love. That's what is driving, I think, the vinyl revival. I think that's really what's at the core of it. That's why we'll continue to see, I think, a world whereby, despite the digital age, vinyl continues to thrive. You know, just as an example, just take this recent VMP Vinyl Weekly's re-release of Psychic by Darkside as an example. It's an absolutely beautiful physical product that's been put together very, very well. It's something that you desire to own. It's something that ultimately I'm going to look after more because it's such a beautiful product. You know, right from everything from the artwork to the way the booklet, the line notes have been very carefully put together, and of course, you know, the beauty of coloured vinyl. This is just something that cannot be replicated in the digital realm, particularly not in streaming, in terms of, you know, the artwork. You know, obviously when we moved from vinyl to CD, we lost something in terms of the size and the format there a little bit, but everything now is reduced down to a thumbnail, and, you know, that makes the whole value of artwork behind, which is part of the creative process of creating a holistic album, all of that goes out of the window entirely pretty much with streaming. So just to summarise then, we can't really go back to how things were, but if we're going to stand any chance of having those kind of classic decades again, from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s, all the way arguably up to the 90s and the early 2000s, whereby the music of the time defined the era, then I think record companies had better make sure that the physical product still has a place at the table to encourage that kind of importance around the music. I think that's really important. So just to end, I think sadly, if we don't achieve a way of doing this, then the future looks pretty bleak for music. A world where music is diminished, a valueless, rented medium, second best to your mobile phone and to Netflix. Quite frankly, our children deserve better. So thank you very much for watching. That concludes today's topic. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Bit of a rant one today, but I think an important one in terms of what we're all about here at Sound Matters, of why I do this, why I make these videos, why I write the content over at the website. It's so at the forefront of why I value vinyl so much. So thanks again for watching. If you like the t-shirt I'm wearing, I'll put a link in the description below where you can go and check that out. It has a Crate Digger logo on the side here, but also says on the back, it's not hoarding if it's vinyl, and I'll just pop an image up on the screen here so you can see what it looks like at the back. Thank you ever so much for your support. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and I'll see you in the next video.